A little bit about me. One of my favorite authors is Mark Twain. He had a lot of really kind of folksy sayings, but the bottom line is that your life is a journey, and you should take every opportunity to learn and grow. David Siegel, my mentor, one of the first things he taught me is that couch potatoes are never successful. If you find yourself going home at night, watching TV, sitting around doing nothing, get up off the couch, sail, dream, discover. My life has been an amazing journey. I came out of the oil fields of Louisiana, worked in oil construction and as a roughneck. Ended up joining the Air Force, spent 10 years on active duty, 10 in the reserves, and it was the best thing ever happened to me. I got 4 college degrees out of it, met my wife of 37 years, had 2 kids, but ended up in the space program. One of those college degrees was a graduate degree in aerospace engineering, and I was a member of the first commercial space launch team out at Cape Canaveral. And so when you say you don't need a rocket science, I actually take that personally. But David Siegel rescued me from that industry many years ago, and people say, well, how did you jump from being a rocket scientist, propulsion engineer, and going into timeshare? It's because David said something very simple to me. He said, I'm going to give you a PhD in business. And he said, you think you've been to business school? You think you've had all this education? I'm going to teach you business. And I got to tell you, he did exactly that. Before I get to that, because I'm going to ask you a very important question in a moment, we're big believers in giving back to the community and all the organizations that we support. And I've been very blessed to be involved in the boards of a lot of very important things that have changed my life, because I believe giving back is one of the most important things that you ever get to do. But my real passion, I think everybody has to have a real passion. They have to have balance in their life. I love writing. I'm actually a musician. Originally, I was a musician back in the 70s and continued to write music. And I was very blessed a few years ago. Lee Greenwood, my good friend, I got to write and produce a song for him and got to go hear him playing at the Grand Ole Opera. So music is kind of my lifeblood. And as I have my own barbecue sauce line and my own, you go to my website, Cooking, Wine, and Travel, and you can see all this crazy stuff that I get to do. But I have a question for everyone in this room. Real simple question I want you to think about. Do you love your job? Yes. Because when I left the space industry, the question my wife asked me the night after David offered me a job, and I'm thinking, do I really want to do this? She asked me, do you love your job? And I said, I never really set out to be an engineer. I was just good at math, won all these scholarships, and I was an engineer. But I really did not enjoy my job. But not surprisingly, because based on a recent Gallup poll, 2/3 of U.S. workers hate their jobs. Think about that, 2/3. Nationally, internationally, it's even worse. 90% of world workers hate their jobs. So we're doing a little bit better than the rest of the world. 51% of U.S. workers, when surveyed, say they are not engaged at work. Now this is scary. 16% are actively disengaged. They're actually doing something else other than work. They're not even productive at all. And that's a pretty scary number. And employees we know who hate their job from these surveys have higher turnover, higher absenteeism, more likely to steal, lower productivity in customer service. And really think about it. We're in the business of serving guests. And if 2/3 of your team members don't give a rat's ass about your guests, Houston, we have a problem. So let's look at attributes of successful organizations. So one thing they know, and someone mentioned that earlier, I think it was very appropriate. People are more likely to quit their boss than their jobs. A bad boss is an employee killer. Good companies highly invest to create great environments where people are valued and respected, given every opportunity to grow, and they recognize the importance of a great culture. This is one of the most overlooked attributes of every major organization. In fact, Bain & Company did an annual worldwide survey. 91% of the leading 1,200 CEOs in the world place culture above strategy on the success of their organization. Think about that. And 81% of these executives agree that if you don't have a winning culture within your organization, you're doomed to mediocrity. Companies with great cultures have very little commonality in what they do. Here's the interesting thing. If you study the top 10 places to work for in the United States, you're going to see an apartment management company, a grocery store chain, a software company. It's not about their product. It's really about how they engage their team members and how they make them feel valued for what they do and feel valued about the product. A young lady asked me earlier today, she's thinking about getting in the timeshare industry, and someone brought her over to get some advice from me. I said, you got to love what you do in this industry because it's hard work. And you have to love who you do it with because it takes a team. And you have to love who you do it for because if you don't care about the customer, you're not going to succeed in this industry. Take Google, for instance. They started out with a handful of people, and they grew to 37,000 team members growing, and repeatedly named #1 by Fortune magazine in the world company to work for. Spend tens of millions of dollars on investing in their work environment. and believes that more employees love their jobs, the more successful they'll be and the more successful the company will be. Very simple, but what makes Google different? And so I studied them. They did come up with this revolutionary search engine idea. They had a great idea. But more importantly, they also created a highly specialized approach to how they treated the people in their organization. They call them, I shouldn't hit that button again. They attract and retain the very best talent in their industry. So here's the question I have for you. Is Google's success because they had a great idea, or is it because they had great people to implement it? And I think that's the thing that's most oft overlooked in organization, especially our entrepreneurial type organizations. We love people with ideas, but we all know that an idea that can't be implemented is nothing but a fantasy. And to implement a great idea, you have to have great people, and those people have to be respected for what they do. So I would argue that it's both. And that's really what the book is about. What makes Google unique is that they applied the very boast of entrepreneurism and leadership in an environment where people felt bad for what they did. They created a culture of success, and they've proven it year in, year out. So building a culture of success really starts with recognizing that an idea is only as important as the people that you have to deliver it. And I love Colin Powell. He's one of my favorite leaders because he always said, you want to hire smart people, but don't be overly enamored with just intelligence and technical training. When you're building your culture, think about the things you cannot teach, like courage and integrity, because you can't teach values. People either have values of character, courage, and integrity, or they don't. And if you allow those people, even their great star performers, to infiltrate your organization, trust me, I have learned firsthand, the smartest person in the world can steal from you better than the dumbest person in the world. And if they don't have good values, it's a recipe for failure. So we look to hire for the things that you can't teach. Yes, we want smart people, but we want to surround our people with people that we feel good about hanging out with, people with integrity, character, and passion. And great companies understand that entrepreneurial and leadership talents are different. Not all entrepreneurs are leaders, and not all leaders are entrepreneurs. And if you're going to build a sustainable organization, you better understand the difference between the two and respect the talents of the two and learn to supplement your entrepreneurial team with a leadership team. So culture of success, it exists where every level of the organization understands their relationship to their success. And I'll tell you, in our company, we have hundreds of job descriptions. We have 12,000 team members. I will tell you there are only 2 real job descriptions that I pay attention to. Number one, those who sell the experience. And it's not just your timeshare salespeople, it's your resort operators, it's your rental marketing people, the people that interface every day with your customer that sell that experience, and then it's everyone else. The problem is, it's great to be recognized as the seller of the experience. What we fail to do is recognize people down in the trenches that make those people successful, the accountants, the IT department, team member services, all the different organizations that haul the trash out and clean the room every night. And that's when an organization thrives, when everyone at every level of that company is respected for what their contribution is to the company. One of the things I love going property visits with David, he doesn't just manage by walking around. He'll actually go in the back of the house, find a housekeeper, talk to her personally on a one-on-one level, shake her hand, and ask her, what can I do to help you? That's what you have to engage your employees at that very personal level. Simon Sinek, I don't know if you guys ever heard of him. He's got a great TED Talk, but he said it best. If you hire people because they can do a job, they'll work for your money. But if you hire them because they believe what you believe in, they'll give you their blood, sweat, and tears. So when I wrote the book, I put together an entire roadmap of how to build a culture within an entrepreneurial organization. And I'm not going to go through each chapter in depth because that would take hours, and I think I only have 30 minutes? No, 12? But I'm going to walk you through each one of these real quickly, just some of the high points of them. Number one, first and foremost, forget everything you learn in business school. That's one thing I learned from David. And one of the things they teach you in business school is hire people that can think for themselves. Sounds good, right? What happens when you hire people that think for themselves? They think for themselves. What you need to do is hire people who are smart, have integrity, and you as a leader need to teach them how you want them to think as a team about the product, about the customer, about the people that they work with. Teach your people how you want to think. Focus on the collective goals of your organization. When you start doing that, when your team members start thinking like owners, we have a saying in our company called, "What would David do?" We're a very entrepreneurial organization. I want to empower my team members to make decisions at the field level. And sometimes that means taking a risk or spending money or breaking a policy in order to do the right thing. So the thing we teach them is, if you had to write the check and you owned this company, what decision you would make. I guarantee no one in our company has ever gotten in trouble for making a good or bad decision when their first thought was, how do I do what David would do to make the right thing for this customer? When everybody understands what business they're in, and this is a good question. There's an exercise in my book that everyone should try. If you don't get past the first chapter, trust me, if you do this one thing, it'll be worth its weight in gold. I've been doing this for years. First time I meet a CEO of a company we're about to acquire, I'll ask him a simple question. What business are you in? Now it sounds like a simple question. It's amazing the answers that I've gotten. And almost every time I can explain why that company was in trouble and for sale. I've taken 20, 30 of my executives at a time, put them in a room like this, had them fill out a card what business they're in, and I'd put them up on the wall. And I guarantee you, if you have 20 or 30 people in your organization fill that card out for you, and you put it on the wall, you'll see 15 different answers. The more different answers you see tells you how far off you are from a collective alignment of the goals of that organization. And as simple as it is, if the people that work for you think that they're in the accounting business, or they think they're in the business of collecting money, if they don't understand that their number one job is taking care of a customer that becomes a lifetime source of future sales and a lifetime source of ownership with your company, whatever your vision is, if they don't collectively agree and believe in that, you have trouble. Everyone has to understand their relationship to the success of the business. Number 2, inspiring creativity and innovation. We have a whole section here on how to build an innovative organization. And I will just tell you, the simple theme of the book is this. Leadership, number one responsibility is the liberation of talent. The worst thing that we do to people is we put them in a box and we criticize them for thinking outside the box. And if your people, and Colin Powell also said this very well, the day that your troops start coming in the door, giving their problems and ideas to you is the day you have failed as a leader. And I don't say just have an open door. You have to have an open heart. You have to be very serious about that. More importantly, make rules that drive success. There's a great story you need to read in the book called Fluffy. It's amazing. I had the same mistake happen at 2 resorts in consecutive weeks. One handled it by the procedure and failed miserably. The other broke all the rules and made a guest happy for life. Do not write procedures and put your people in a position. Because guess what? I'll tell you a little secret about your customer. Your customer does not care what your policy is. If they have a problem, they want it fixed. They don't want somebody to say, I'm sorry, sir, but that's our policy. How many times did that happen to one of you and just blown your mind? Do not let your organization write rules that inhibit their ability to take care of the customer. And when they do it, reward them for the creativity. Wow, you came up with a really cool idea. Let's do that again. A lot of people talk about micromanaging. Micromanaging is the buzzword of business school. Let me tell you, it's completely wrong. Everybody heard about management by walking around? MBWA, there's been books written about it. Harvard did a study on it a few years ago, colossal failure. Why? Because what they learned is that when you get together with your executives and you walk the factory floor or walk the sales floor and pretend to be visible, it actually intimidates people. There's no connection. They don't feel personal. Do what David does. Just me and him will walk around the resort. He'll walk around the back of the house. He'll grab team members. He'll get personally involved and ask. I call it leading by paying attention. Not only do you have to pay attention, but you have to be good at getting things done, because if you engage a team member and you say, hey, how can I help you? And they tell you, and you don't do anything about it, you've just lost all value as their leader. So be very good at getting things done and becoming a resource to your team. And this is another business rule. They say, well, in business school they teach you, it's just business. It's not personal. Let me tell you a little secret about leadership and running a big company and a small company. It is very personal. It's personal to the people that work for you. If you want them to be engaged and feel empowered and love what they do and love who they do it with, it's a very personal thing. Don't let anybody ever kid you. Courage and integrity. I think the young lady said it earlier. It was really great. There's actually data to support what she said. Over 90% of employees today expect their organization to do what is right, not just what is profitable. If you want to build a great culture and a great team, do the right thing for the right reasons. Our company's heavily involved in tons of charities, not for PR's sake. We get very little PR for the charities. We don't even have a PR department. But what we do is we get our team members engaged in the charities of their choice to support our communities, because what we've learned is that people who service others for free on their own time happen to be some of the best people at serving people when you pay them for it and engage them for it. And again, you cannot teach integrity and courage. And one of the things you have to do is one of the most important lessons I learned from David. If you can't accept criticism, you're going to suck at being a leader. Because especially the younger people, the millennials, they want to be heard. Whether they're right or wrong, they want to be heard. And if you're not listening, they're not going to be paying attention to you either. And remember that loyalty is a two-way street. You just don't demand it, you have to earn it. Developing your team, I have a great chapter on 6 degrees of separation. Everybody heard of 6 degrees of separation? Scientifically, it's been proven to be true. Back 15 years ago, proven to be true. I believe it's even now down to 2 to 4 degrees. I think we're so interconnected through our digital DNA, through Facebook, Instagram, social media. It's amazing how small the world is. In fact, if I could go back 25 years ago and take a young Mark Waltrip and say, here's the one thing you better learn. Treat everyone you meet for the first time as though they are important, because they probably are. And I've lost count the number of times that I've met somebody who knew somebody who knew somebody that has impacted my life or my career. And that's why you have to surround yourself with talented people and hire for more than just talent. And you guys all run some great marketing organizations, and you're trying to recruit and hire best people. When's the last time you've taken your marketing people and sat them down with your HR department and taught them how to market for new team members? You have a valuable resource. Use that resource, because trust me, recruiting for talent is marketing. Hiring for talent is sales. If you've got a great sales and marketing team, have them train your recruiters how to do it, because they're not seeing the vision. Never give up. This is one of David's tenets. And I'll tell you, the secret to never giving up is surrounding yourself with positive people, because David is one of these guys that will always take the mountain. And when he charges up that mountain, you better be following or leading the way. And you don't do that, because I'll tell you, your team will rise or fall to whatever expectation you set that. And you will not accomplish that mountain if the people that surround you don't believe in you and trust you. And I also would say, know the difference between quitting and failing. That's something that most people don't understand. When Winston Churchill came up with that famous saying about never give up, what he meant was, keep doing different things so you get it right. Thomas Edison did not invent the light bulb. That's a myth. He'll admit that if he was alive today. But I will tell you this, he took a failed product, and he tried 10,000 times, 10,000 different methods till he got it right. And when asked, why he kept going, he said, well, I never had a failure. I just knew I was going down the wrong path, so I changed my path, and I kept doing it 10,000 times till I finally got it right. And thanks to him, we're all standing in light. Communications. To be a great leader, you have to be a great communicator. But I don't want you to be intimidated by that, because this is not about a personality contest. Some of us are more like Jason. I mean, the guy's amazing. I couldn't believe I had to come up after him. He actually made data sound interesting. By the way, Jason, we are going to meet later. That's a great product. I hear your wife, like my wife, is the real brains behind the couple, so we have a lot in common there. But you don't have to be a master of public speaking. The trick is, and this is something that I'm learning every day, my wife is actually very good at, I'm not, listen first, especially with your team members. Be clear and credible. Passion is the key to inspiration. You got to believe it. You have to live it, walk it, talk it. But this is really important, because Jason was kind of touching on this. Speak to where people are listening. I met this gentleman at a conference a few years ago, and he was complaining that him and his daughter were very close. She went off to college. They don't talk hardly anymore. And while we were sitting there, he gets a text, and he texts back. I said, what's that? He said, well, my daughter and I are texting back and forth. And I said, well, how often did she text you? He says, 20 times a day. I said, you are talking to your daughter. That's how kids communicate. They'll sit next to each other in a coffee shop and text each other. Yes, and I'm almost done. Just one more minute. And next night we're at dinner, and someone asked me, so, hey, John, when's the last time you talked to her? I said, I talk to her 20 times a day. He just didn't realize he was. So speak to your audience when and where they're listening. Learn how to use their tools and study the greats. I have a whole section of my book of everybody from Billy Graham to Martin Luther King, Abraham Lincoln, Vince Lombardi, all the greats. Learn what made them great and pick off of that. And then the last chapter, one of the best investments you will ever make in yourself is in yourself. And you've got to learn to invest in yourself. And know this, being realistic is a recipe for mediocrity. Set your goals high, dream high, run hard. As David said, do not be a couch potato. Important point on confidence. To be a leader, you do have to be confident. But I think what we're seeing today is we got a lot of narcissistic leaders. And a narcissistic leader will destroy your organization. If you have one in your company, get rid of them. I don't care what he or she, how good a talent they are. If they care more about themselves than the organization or the people that they serve, get rid of them. They will poison your organization and ultimately bring you down. Just know that you can use self-reflection as an antidote for self-absorption. And these narcissistic leaders will destroy you. You will make mistakes. But always learn from those mistakes and always be building the future. The key is do not let your mistakes define who you are. And just remember, the world is truly a small place. And that's why I believe giving back is such a great opportunity to build your resume out there in the world. I'll skip that, go to the last slide just to wrap it up really quickly. One thing's important to note. No one ever created a great culture with posters and mottos. It just doesn't happen. It's not believable. Your team members won't buy into it. They're going to look to you as the leader of their organization, how you act and how you are. And again, don't be afraid to teach them how you want them to think. Once you do that, you've actually empowered them to act on your behalf. Throw away your traditional management textbooks. We talked about a lot of things that you read through the book. Pretty much everything we've taught in management school was written by someone who was teaching because they couldn't get a real job. I hate to say it, but it's true. And so, and I'm one, I wrote a book. But a couple ideas. Replace manage by walking around, by leading, by paying attention. Get out there and interact with your team members in a personal way. And when they give you their problems, act on them, fix them. Lose the word manager from your vocabulary. Replace it with leaders. I don't even have a human resources department anymore. We call it team member services because I don't think people are a resource. They're really not. They're people, and they need to be treated as such. And replace employees with team members. And when you start doing that and treating them with respect and value for their role in the success of the business, they will support you with their blood, sweat, and tears. And the last thought I want to leave you with is take your organization chart. If you have an organization chart, just turn it upside down. Put yourself at the bottom because your job as a leader is not to stand up above people and tell them what to do. Your job as a leader is to hold your hands up and support them. And that's what an upside down org chart looks like. I have a little shameless plug here. You can buy my book on Amazon, but I have about 10 or 15 copies. And anyone who donates $20 or more to the Victoria Voice Foundation to fight opioid abuse in America, that's David's Champion Foundation named after his daughter, I'll give you a free autographed copy anytime today. Thank you.